Hi, I'm Sharpie Shark. I love movies. March is almost over at the time of filming this, so I should probably tell you what I watched in February. Yes, this is releasing in April. Yes, March was crazy. Don't mind me. I'm getting the hang of this. February is usually the prime month where I'm trying to knock through all of the Best Picture nominations, which meant that the first movie that I watched in February was Nickel Boys. And I really wanted to like it. It did get better. Nickel Boys was directed by Ramel Ross, and it was adapted from a novel written by Colson Whitehead. It follows Elwood Curtis, who's played by Ethan Harisi, who's a bright Black teenager in the 1960s in Florida who gets wrongfully sent to Nickel Academy, which is a reform school. He becomes friends with another boy there, Turner, who's played by Brandon Wilson, and they try to navigate this nightmare factory. While Elwood and Turner are both fictional characters, the story of this is entirely based on a very sad, very tragic true story. It is based on the real-life Florida School for Boys, or the Dozier School for Boys, Dozier School for Boys, which was a rehabilitation facility meant for troubled youths, and it was atrocious. It became notorious for systemic abuse, for neglect, for murder, for the deaths of its attendees. It was heavily racially segregated, and white supremacy was at its core. So, of course, the boys who attended, if they were Black, they were treated far worse. So the material in this film is incredibly heavy and incredibly important. And while the movie got me there in its third act, it took its sweet time getting me there because the whole thing is shot in first-person perspective. So you are seeing through the eyes of whoever, usually Elwood's eyes, sometimes Turner's, whoever's leading the scene, essentially. Sometimes the same scene back to back. I love a creative risk with filmmaking, but this just, I don't know, something didn't work for me for a long while. It didn't feel immersive. It kind of felt like I was just watching a Bethesda cutscene. And that's not just from the first person perspective, although that really lent its hand. Sometimes the dialogue felt really stilted and off and just weird. It just kind of ended up feeling more distracting than engaging. But by the third act, I was in it. I was like, I need to know what happens here. The ending is powerful. I'm glad I stuck with it. It definitely stuck with me. I didn't know anything about this history beforehand. All in all, I give it 3 out of 5 stars. I think that the heaviness and seriousness of this topic deserved less of a gimmick. Some people really, really liked it though. Some people really found it engaging. It just didn't click for me, the first person stuff. But yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched was Smile 2, directed by Parker Finn. This was a rewatch for me. I watched it the first time over Christmas with my family, and I was excited to watch it with my partner and friends. This film is a sequel to the 2022 film, and it follows a pop star named Sky Riley, who's played by Naomi Scott, as she's trying to go into her comeback tour. The first thing I want to talk about is Naomi Scott's performance, because oh my god, it was so good. Dude, seriously, this was one of my favorite horror performances I've seen in the past few years, genuinely. And I mean, girl, I've been here since Lemonade Mouth. You never disappoint. She absolutely sells every ounce of fear, of paranoia, of just unraveling sanity. It's so good. So here's the thing. I love horror movies. I think they are amazing. I think that the stories that can be told through horror, if done properly, are the best that I've seen. Here's the other thing. I don't like jump scares. I think they're cheap. I think they're lame. I think that they're just jump startles and that they're not actually scary. But Smile 2 does their few amounts of jump scares very well in my mind, and that's because they created this eerie, creepy atmosphere really appropriately. It really leans into the psychological horror and then just makes you feel like icky, like you got stuff all over you. I like it. There's one scene where Sky's in her apartment and she's starting, whoopsie daisies, and she's already starting to see things. And there's this point where she sees her entire dance company like slowly crawling towards her, but they only move whenever she's not looking, like a weeping angel. And it was perfect. Here's where it lost me just a little bit, or where I wanted to understand more. And it was better on the second watch, I will say. But what are the rules? What are the rules? What are the basic rules? To be properly scared of something in a movie, I need to understand at least a little bit of how it works, right? If you've seen the first movie, you know how the creature works. If you don't want to know, just skip forward a little bit here. It's a curse. It's a good old curse franchise, and I love those. It follows The Ring. Trigger warning here. It passes from person to person after they have witnessed a gruesome, horrifying suicide, and the person committing the act is smiling just horribly, unnervingly, menacingly. Once that person is dead and the other person has been staring at the one who is committing the act, they then are infected and they start to experience hallucinations, and they are awful. This continues until the host either also does the same act in some other creative, ridiculous way, or they kill someone. That's what we knew from the first movie. And then in the second movie, they just kind of, more rules, less rules, there are no rules. I'm not sure. They introduced a character who's played by Peter Jacobson, which makes me think that the director just really liked House because Cal Penn was in the first one. I love that. And they're both still playing a form of doctor. Anyway, Peter Jacobson's character is introduced and is like, oh, my brother was infected. He died. I want to help you. And then they just go down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out how to stop the curse. And it's just, I don't want to say too much. Horror hits harder whenever you know the stakes. And I just kept like grasping, just trying to figure out what's happening. Also, what happens if you just smile back? Like, what if you're just like, ooh, what if Charlie Kirk is the one that's being infected and he's just like, is this good for you? I also might have just misunderstood the mechanics, but I did watch it twice, so I don't know. 3 out of 5 stars. Most of that is for Naomi Scott's acting performance because I genuinely just think it was incredible. I also don't know how I forgot to mention it, but girl should have gotten an Oscar nom for just how many Voss water bottles she was able to chug. I knew that I was going to get the privilege of talking about Neil Breen at some point. I just didn't know it was going to be the second video that I filmed. How do I talk about Neil Breen? The man, the myth, the enigma. He is a self-made filmmaker with absolutely no business being 5 miles anywhere near a film set, but I am so glad that he is. This was a rewatch for me. Had to show it to some friends who did not know the magnificence of Neil Breen, and here we are. Neil was an architect for most of his life. He dabbled in real estate for a half a second before he decided, you know what the filmmaking world needs? A hacker assassin with supernatural abilities played by me. So he financed his own films, wrote them, directed them, starred in them, did everything pretty much with these films. And Double Down was his very first one. All of his films follow the same loose formula. A lone wolf protagonist played by Breen, who has godlike abilities, elite hacking skills, and a divine mission to expose corruption. It's like every single film, and yet it never gets old. Okay, so enough on Neil Breen for a second. Double Down, the plot is... What is the plot? It follows a man named Aaron Brand, who is a former government agent who is now a master hacker, an elite assassin, a bioterrorist, and also lives out of his car in the Nevada desert. He uses his hacking abilities to shut down entire cities while mourning his dead fiancée, whose ghost appears occasionally to stroke his face. He also exclusively eats cans of tuna. It's a lot of tuna. There's one point where he takes off his shirt and he just lays on some rocks for some reason for a while. It doesn't go anywhere. Nobody knows why he does it. Maybe he's just like a lizard. I don't know. Ooh, he's also a lizard. Neil Breen is not a good actor. He's not a good director. He's not a good writer or editor, but he puts his heart into every production. The pacing makes no sense. The voiceovers explain everything and nothing. Every single line feels like it's just being read off of the napkin it was scribbled on for the first time. I give it a half a star because it's not a good movie, but I give it a big old heart because I like it and I love gathering friends for it and being like, what is this? I genuinely think that Neil Breen is a gift to the world of cinema, and I will always sit down and watch this man hack away at laptops that have 0 code on the screen.
She's alive.
Next up, we watched Breakdown from 1997, directed by Jonathan Mostow, and I liked this more than I expected to. We actually found this one because of Red Letter Media. They were doing some sort of review on it, and then we kind of paused it part of the way through because we were like, this actually sounds interesting. I want to watch this first. So the setup is simple, but stressful. Jeff and Amy, played by Kurt Russell and Amy Quinlan, why did I say Amy Quinlan? It's Kathleen Quinlan, are on a road trip whenever their car just breaks down. A trucker shows up and offers to give them a lift, and the wife goes. Just Amy, just the wife. Kurt Russell's character stays at the car. Why? Because the plot demanded it. When Jeff gets to the diner where she's supposed to be, Plot twist, she's not there. And that's when the film really begins. One of the things I really love about this film is that Kurt Russell isn't playing like an ex-military guy or like a super spy action hero. He's just a guy. He's just a guy who's got some muscles, but not like a ton. He's just kind of like a bigger dude. And he's just doing his best, trying to get his wife back, which honestly makes it way more stressful because you're like, well, this guy's not John Wick. He might die. But it is a 90s action film, so you're pretty sure he's not. He's Kurt Russell. You're pretty sure he's gonna make it out of there. But does he? Does he? This is also one of the thrillers that, like, as soon as Amy kind of disappears, it feels like it's just go, go, go. Like, there's no downtime. There's something happening all the time, and it keeps the pace going really nicely. There's not a lot of fluff to it, which is pretty cool. I like it. It feels like a good, neat package. I had a great time with this movie. It's simple, it's fun, it had a lot of like, oh shit moments. I'm gonna give it like a 3.5 out of 5. I liked it. The next movie I get to talk about is Flow, and I'm so excited. Here, wait, I feel like I need, hold on. Hi, yeah, you see you? Yeah. Oh, tell me more. There you go, baby. Oh, yeah. So Flow came out of nowhere, and it actually became one of my favorite animated films, which is pretty wild to say. It was nominated for Best Animated Film at the Oscars, and that's a big reason of why we saw it. And I am so excited to say it won. Yes. This little indie darling from Latvia just absolutely bodied all of the giant studios. And I'm just so excited about it. It beat out Disney, it beat out DreamWorks. Latvia, the little cat that could. The story follows a little black cat who is trying to survive a post-apocalyptic, heavily flooded and actively flooding world. Along the way, it picks up a merry band, a misfit crew involving a capybara, a secretary bird, a dog, and a lemur, who are all just trying to find a safe place. And that's it. That is the plot of the film. No dialogue, no exposition dump, just vibes. I absolutely adore movies with little to no dialogue. I think that they are just incredibly impressive. They're so effective when done well. And this one did it so well. Despite having no words, I felt everything. It was weird and hypnotic. And the whole thing was made in Blender. What? That's so cool. If you didn't know, Blender is an open source 3D software that indie creators can use whenever they don't have a Pixar-sized budget. Yeah. And it was used masterfully. I need that light. Yep, that one. It's not gonna warm your butt, it's an LED. Oh, it was directed by Gins Zilbiladis, by the way. I forgot to say that. He also did so many other parts of this. He wrote it, he directed it, he produced it, he edited it, he composed it, he created it. And I mean, there is an entire team, but he is the major force behind it. And he proved that you don't need millions of dollars to create something so visually breathtaking. This film relies 100% on visual storytelling. Nobody explains the backstory, no one tells you the rules of this world. There aren't any monologues about, we must find land or else we shall perish. It just happens. Yes, baby. I know, I hear you. He's got 3 hours before dinner. I am a sucker for films that actually trust their audience and then just shut up and let the visuals do the work. Because there's no dialogue, it forces you to actually pay attention to the way the animals interact, to the way their movements shift based on trust or fear, or to how the environment itself tells its own story, and it's just so well done. Somehow this movie feels so soothing and intensely existential all at the same time. It's also incredibly stressful. I just want that cat to get a fish. One minute you're like, oh, look at all these little guys on their adventure, and the next you're like, oh my god, this is a metaphor for survival and the fragility of life. Did I expect to have an existential crisis over a Latvian film about a cat? No. Am I glad I did? Absolutely. 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. Absolute masterpiece. Now it's one of my favorite animated films. That's it. That's all I got. I have more, but I'm gonna move on.
I promise.
The next one on our Oscar Best Picture nominees list was The Brutalist, which, true to its name, was brutal. It was directed by Brady Corbet. It follows a Hungarian Jewish architect who immigrates to America after World War II, and it chronicles his rise to fame, his relationships, his sacrifices, his wins, everything that he does in pursuit of his artistic legacy. We were putting this one off because it's long. Man, it's like 3.5 hours long, and I love a good lengthy film, but it has to be good. It started out great, the pacing was tight, the performances were solid, and I was actually really invested in the story. And then the second half happened, and it was kind of specifically whenever they went to Italy that it just sort of fell apart for me. Characters started making choices that felt completely out of character, and some of the scenes were just lingering for so long. The momentum that it had just completely evaporated. Here's the thing, I see what they were trying to do. They wanted to build up the first half with hope, with an upwards trajectory, and then just to rip it all away. I'm down for that. Give me a gut punch. Stab me in the heart and twist it. But you have to execute it well. And this wasn't it. And then there's that scene. And if you've seen it, you know which one I'm talking about. We're still in Italy. We're in the mines. That one. It is one of those moments in filmmaking that can be incredibly important and incredibly powerful if it's earned. Here, it feels like it was thrown in for shock value, which I hate. These scenes have to feel necessary and impactful and handled with extreme care. And this one didn't. And that left a really bad taste in my mouth. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the AI usage. So the filmmakers used AI-assisted voice editing to help with the Hungarian pronunciation from the performances of Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones. They did take a lot of dialect coaching in most of their performances theirs, but the team did end up using the program to help smooth out their accent for any native speakers. The editor, I'm gonna brutalize this, David Janczko, who was a native Hungarian speaker, contributed his own voice to help refine everything. So Brody still performed the role, but his performance is technically slightly altered. It's a little nebulous, right? To me, this feels like an okay use of AI. The voices that were used to help refine the performances came entirely from in-house. Now, where it is really muggy is where we should ask, should he have gotten the nomination for Best Actor and the win, which, oh my God, his speech went on as long as the film. I felt so bad for Cillian Murphy up there. He's never going to try to win an Oscar again. So I do understand the argument of it's not entirely Adrian Brody's performance that's being judged, right? Now, there were also some rumors that AI was used to create some visuals, like some blueprints and stuff that were used in the end of the film, but the director ended up denying this. But he did end up saying, what did he say? That there were AI rendered visuals in a memorial video at the end of the film because they were specifically designed to look like bad renderings from the 80s. Not cool, man. Just draw them, just poorly render them. I don't like that one. I don't like that. I give it like a 2.5 out of 5. I didn't enjoy it. I mean, the acting was really, really good. Guy Pearce just knocked it out of the park. Joe Alwyn was a really weird add-in, but he did good. It just had a lot of lingering shots of people sadly looking off into the distance. This film is about Bob Dylan. That's it. That's the plot. It's him and his life, kind of. I didn't like it. That's different from it being a bad movie. I didn't like it, but probably because I am not a Bob Dylan fan. Okay, don't get me wrong. Timothée Chalamet knocks it out of the park. He was so convincing that I hated him every single time he was on the screen, which, as you can imagine, is all the time. The voice, the mannerisms, the too cool to care attitude. He nails it. The film's costuming is beautiful, it's impressive, and then the cinematography paints a really good visual of what the era looked like. The music is everywhere. It actually has music, unlike some musicals that have been released, and is handled well. Chalamet even performed live, which is awesome. And like, I have to be honest, I am so over the tortured artist, rich people problems narrative. The whole, I'm so talented, people love me, women throw themselves at me, yet I'm miserable trope. I'm just sick of it. I'm bored. Hollywood is so obsessed with this storyline for movies like Maestro or A Star is Born. So just a lot of Bradley Cooper. Nothing against Bradley Cooper. He's just got a handle on this narrative. Actually, should someone check in on Bradley Cooper? But Hollywood being so obsessed with this feels like such a big self-congratulatory loop. Oh, babies, what are you getting into? Do you want to say something to your adoring fans? No? Okay. If I have to sit through one more scene of a talented yet misunderstood Mary Sue of an artist brooding about his success, I'm going to start rooting for their downfall. Speaking of downfalls, the movie does acknowledge the fact that Bob Dylan was kind of a jerk, but that's kind of all they do. They just acknowledge it. It's like the film wants to keep him as enigmatic rather than just unpleasant. But that's the thing. He wasn't just difficult. He was outright gross. The man never brushed his teeth. His breath was awful, like Joni Mitchell used to complain about it, to the point that his teeth were rotting out of his mouth. They were black. Ew. His own road manager used to describe him as smelling like a fucking hog. I want to be clear that I'm using so much past tense in this section because I don't know what his current behaviors are. He's not dead. He wore the same leather jacket for so long without washing it that it reeked of vomit. And the movie doesn't touch on any of that. You know, he was like the cool rebel, not the guy who was stinking up all the recording studios. Look, if you are a huge Bob Dylan fan, you're probably gonna love this. Chalamet gives it his all. Film clearly admires its subjects. Stop biting my light. It wasn't likely to work for me, and that's fine. Not every movie is for everyone, but for me, it was 141 minutes of watching some guy I don't like. So 1 star. It's not a bad movie. I didn't like it. Was that all I watched in February? Oh my god. That was all the films that I watched in February and what I thought of them. If you were paying attention to the nominees, there was one more film that we had to watch and got it done March 1st. So that'll be the first movie in the next video, which hopefully I get out sooner than I got this one. Once again, I'm going to put up some of my favorite Letterboxd reviews, and it is your job to figure out which movie they're about. I'm going to put up the answers to the last video also up. Thank you for hanging out with me, and go watch something, preferably something without dialogue. Bye!